boy. Good morning. I'm seeing these headlines about the New York City mayoral race, and there are so many freaking candidates in that race. So I asked the ether, how does the New York City race work? And they use, get ready for it. Get ready. I hope you've taken that medicine that helps with nausea. They use ranked choice voting in New York. I threw up a little bit in my mouth. When I heard those words, ranked choice voting, I went, like I had to fight back that terrible, no good, horrible way of finding candidates. And so here's the thing. If nobody gets to 50%, if nobody gets to 50% in the first round, it could take weeks to finally get the opponent who will be running against Mayor Eric Adams, who's an independent. He's running independently. And so this, I believe, is the fight to be the Democrat nominee for the mayor of New York City. And I'm like, okay, you know what? This could be put on full display here because all of the networks which have big infrastructure in New York City, for good reason, biggest city in the U.S., they're going to be talking about this mayoral race more than the rest of the country even cares or gives a crap about it. But because it's important to, it's like when a big storm hits the East Coast, that's all they talk about. Meanwhile, we deal with storms all over the country, and they don't get near. They get some attention, not the kind of attention that the actual reporters and editors are living in. So we're going to hear a lot about the New York City mayoral race. And let me just make a prediction right now, because ranked choice voting failed spectacularly in Idaho back in November. And I don't know it. In fact, I think ranked choice, I'll have to look. I think ranked choice voting did worse than Paulette Jordan. That's how bad ranked choice voting was. And I don't mean to, rub anything in, but that's how much Idahoans did not want ranked choice voting. And now, if there's a silver lining here, I think the 30% who voted for it probably should pay close attention to how this unfolds in New York, where typically in America, when you have rational elections, on election night, sometimes it's the next morning in most elections, and everyone feels pretty confident about that. But now they're going to have multiple rounds of voting. It could take weeks and even more weeks like it did in Alaska, because it all comes down to the number of ballots that you have to count. And I remember in the advocates for ranked choice voting and for Proposition 1 would say, we'll figure it out. It's all right. You have little towns. Apparently there are a few little towns in Utah that use ranked choice voting. I think Moab is an example. And you're talking about one town and probably a few hundred votes. They're able to get that done because your ballots are not geographically spread out like they are in Alaska. In New York City, it's going to take a while because you have millions and millions of people and ballots that you have to go through. So even among and this is all I'm going to talk about it, because I think after Prop 1, I'm like, I don't ever want to say the words ranked choice voting again. But I think even the 30% who voted for ranked choice voting will be paying extra special attention to the New York election. And even those 30%, who quite frankly are probably the most likely to have some level of mental deficiency, even they will probably say, man, we did dodge a bullet. I'm glad that the other, 2/3 plus of Idaho voted against this, because we really don't want it. All right, so you have that. Sorry, can you have a tangent if you never started the original point in the first place? I don't think so. So here's the deal. We had a ceasefire, we thought, yesterday, and then overnight, they're like, okay, let's have one last hurrah. Iran launches a missile. Israel says, okay, you launched a missile at us. That's it. Trump gets up. He is irate this morning upon finding out that we thought we had a ceasefire. It was going to start in 12 hours. And when a ceasefire is going to start in 12 hours, what that does not mean is you have 12 hours to fight. You have 12 hours to drop your missiles in your arsenal. That's not what 12 hours until a ceasefire means. It means carefully back away. Everyone just ramp down. Everyone cool off. And then we need an official start of the ceasefire. We'll do that. Well, you know what it's like? It's like a yellow light. And I will admit to this, when I'm approaching an intersection, oftentimes people will look at a red or yellow light and say, that means I need to slow down. But there are some of you, me included, that believe a yellow light is an indicator to speed up. And maybe that's not the best approach. All right. But in this case, they're like, okay, we have a limited window here. Let's get one last little shindig, artillery shindig in. And so they launched each other. Well, Trump woke up and, of course, upon finding out that they thought we had a ceasefire, we don't have a ceasefire, he was not happy about it at all.
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Yeah, he said that. He said the big word. And so everybody's dropping bombs. I think that's the punchline for all of this is you have Israel, you have Iran, and because they did, then Trump's going to drop his own F-bomb in this case. And he clearly was irritated. And through the whole thing, if you watch the entire gaggle, I only grabbed this piece because that's the one that's getting the headlines. But he spent time ripping into he calls them MSDNC, ripping into CNN, and don't believe me, they deserve it. But he was in an irritable mood this morning because he's flying off to NATO because he's Trump. He's everywhere all the time, and so. But there's the reporters, and I think he was like, okay, I gotta get some of this off my chest, and so he's answering their questions, and you can see that he is frustrated. And I think part of this, and I look into this, and we've been studying Trump for a decade now, closely as a political figure. We've known about him for decades, but as a political figure, I think we just surpassed the 10-year mark of him riding down the escalator back in 2015 with Melania and his family there, and to great fanfare. And this was back when everybody thought it was just another reality TV stunt that he was pulling. Little did we know. So we've had about 10 years to be watching Trump. And if we examine Donald Trump's psyche, I think it's pretty clear that Trump likes to win. He likes to have successes. And I think when he goes out and he announces that there's a ceasefire, literally a day after he decimates, completely guts Iran's nuclear capability, those are two big wins. He makes the world safer by obliterating the nuke capability of Iran. And then there's another layer of winning because he announces this historic ceasefire. And it was like win, win, win. And it really was. And then overnight they muss it up because they've been fighting for centuries. They don't know how to not fight. It's not in their nature to not fight. It is just sort of baked into who they are. And of course, Israel, who's been fighting for their very existence for a long time, is probably ready, saying, you know what, if we have a missile come our way, we aren't going to hesitate. And I think Trump's like, look, peace through strength. Peace through strength. Trying to teach people who've been fighting for centuries there's a different pathway here. In fact, Trump is the Buddha, in a sense. Like, there's a pathway of peace here for Israel and for Iran. And it's just elusive, and it's tricky, and it doesn't happen instantly. So after Trump dropped his F-bomb, he gets on Marine One, and I think the very first thing he did was get Netanyahu on the phone. So he talks to Netanyahu, and apparently they had a very tense conversation. And then Netanyahu said, okay, we will not bomb Iran anymore. You've got to have a ceasefire. And here's the thing, and maybe this is the thing that you have to understand. And I don't know if this is true. I'm not, I have a college degree. It is not in Middle East studies. So, but as I look at this, I feel as though there are some leaders, and don't get me wrong, I don't want you to extrapolate too much from what I'm about to say, because no doubt we had to remove nuclear capability from Iran. That is a non-starter, whatever needed to happen. They absolutely are not responsible enough people to have nukes. So Trump did the right thing there. But if you look at people like Kim Jong-un of North Korea, you look at the mullahs of Iran, you look at this quite often, not always, because they have inflicted terror, but quite often there's a term, all hat, no cattle. And I think maybe they're all hat and only a little bit of cattle. They do terror attacks, they do things like that, but sometimes there were. So when they drop a missile, it's for their ego. It's like, okay, we need to save face, we need to show our people and maybe Allah and whatever. We need to show them that we can. It is a grave sin to be peaceful with Israel in their minds. So they have to do things like this. They have to show these hostilities from time to time. And I think it's been the policy of the United States. You kind of let them have their little radical Islamic tantrum, but you can't ever let them get big enough or strong enough or have the resources to do it on a bigger scale. And I think Trump sort of downplayed the missile that was shot out of Iran and felt like the reaction by Israel was too big and too much and would only escalate things. And I think his thought is, let them have their stupid little tantrum. It's a single missile that may have been fired errantly and it didn't kill anyone and it fell in a harmless place. So we have to be bigger than to react to those kinds of things. And so that's why I think Trump's frustrated. One of the things that Israel has said, and Israel, you'll notice that Israel, they don't start fights. They will finish them in spectacular fashion, but they do not start them. And I think they are very, very clear about that. That if and sometimes it's more than an eye for an eye. It's an eye and an arm and a leg and some teeth and some kneecaps for an eye. And you know what? Given the history, I don't know that I blame them. However, we have a new paradigm here. Iran cannot annihilate Israel with a nuclear weapon. They are anemic compared to what they used to be. And I think Trump wants them to understand that. We put our treasure, our resource, our men and women at risk to make largely Israel safer and the entire region safer. And Israel does not need to respond with such overwhelming force anymore when you have something like this. Now, that's me. I'm not really second-guessing a bunch of stuff. I'm trying to explain maybe the viewpoint that Trump is having here. And I think that he wants to win and he wants to be successful and have these great outcomes. And it wasn't helpful overnight for these attacks to happen. But I think we're now kind of back on track. But the only thing that will tell is time. And if we can go months and then years and the hostilities have ceased, then we'll know that maybe we've made some pretty good progress. So you have that. And then meanwhile, domestically, and this will be really quick, you have these Democrats. Are you insane, you Democrats, calling for the impeachment of Donald Trump? I do not understand this at all. You have AOC, and she like is on the warpath, and maybe it's just firing up her own base. Maybe for her it's just a political maneuver.
On the ceasefire, the president posted on Truth Social that there is a ceasefire deal between Israel and Iran. Do you believe that? He also said that it was a war, and I think that the president of the United States admitting that he unilaterally brought the United States into a war without congressional approval is a very grave public admission. It is illegal. It is unconstitutional.
Okay, and therefore that is why she is seeking the third impeachment of Donald J. Trump. Well, Fetterman, who is so weird, and I'm sharing this bizarreness with a lot of people. They've expressed the same thing, that who would have thunk that John Fetterman has turned out to be one of the more sensible Democrats in the U.S. Senate.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says the president shouldn't be impeached because he's impulsive. What do you think of that?
No, I mean, of course, no. She knows it. I know it. We all know it. That's not going anywhere. And, you know, he's been impeached twice, and now he's still our president as well now, too. So it's not going anywhere, and I don't think that's helpful. And I think if you throw that term around, that actually diminishes what the severity of what impeachment is really reserved for.
Okay, everything he said is exactly right. But you know what? They've already done that. They've already done it by impeaching him for a phone call. They've done it by impeaching him for things he did not do on January 6th. So, I mean, they have beclowned themselves through that particular part of the Constitution. They made themselves look like idiots. And here's AOC, but you know what? Maybe that's how you get ahead. And the more crazy, the more irrational, the more unworkable that you appear to be, maybe that's how you gain traction in your twisted and bizarre political sphere. All right, we got to take a break. It's 8:26 on News Talk 107.9. If you'd like to reach the program, the Stones Automotive Group call and text line is 208-542-1079.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hey, it's Brad from Now 105.1 and QP99. I'm in the studio here. I love our studios, by the way. Ranger Rick back there. There's Neal and Julie doing their thing. Hey, when you want to advertise on the radio, what do? You call the radio station, right? But what do you do when you want to advertise on Facebook and Instagram and Hulu and Disney Plus and Peacock and the other TV streaming services? You can kind of click around on them and make guesses or read books or take courses online on how to do that advertising. Or you could call us at the radio station. At Sandhill Media, we take care of your local radio and digital marketing. So reach out to us at sandhillmediagroup.com and we'll make sure that your message gets heard and seen wherever your customers are.
If the ceasefire holds and we're not engaged in hostilities, then it's a moot point, and I wouldn't need to bring it to the floor. I just spoke with the speaker about that.
That, of course, is Thomas Massey. He was speaking outside the Capitol. So, Julie, when I'm watching all of this, and you have the Democrats who are talking about the Constitution now, like they love it, which is so weird. You have Thomas Massey, who I truly believe does love the Constitution. Yeah. And but it reminds me of an episode of The Office. And you've seen this episode. It's one of my favorite episodes where Michael Scott is driving and he's got the navigation on his car. Dwight is sitting in the passenger seat. And Michael insists on following exactly where the navigation takes him. And he ends up driving his car into a lake, completely submerged. And Dwight's saying, Michael, you can't. This is a lake. You're driving into this lake. But Michael keeps on driving because that's what the navigation says. And he keeps driving his car into the water, and it completely ruins the car, obviously. And I feel like for some, their own interpretation of the Constitution is like the navigation system in Michael Scott's car, and they must follow it even to a disastrous end.
Yes. I don't know why. I've actually said this already to you this morning about a completely different subject, but about the well, we were talking about Candace Owens.
Yeah.
It's okay to admit you're wrong.
Yeah.
That's actually a very endearing principle or attribute that people can have about themselves.
Yeah.
For Thomas Massey to go, look, I am libertarian, but I can see the benefits here. Even if I wouldn't have made the decision, I can see the benefits here.
Yeah.
And I'll admit that. I think that would be endearing to the people who follow him. Yet he just refuses to.
Yeah.
Candace Owens is doing exactly the same thing. Tucker, her, Dave Smith, they were all wrong about the outcome. They're just doubling and tripling down.
Yeah, they are. And I feel, you know what's really sad about that? A couple of things. We need them. Like, they're powerful voices with big platforms. They're often right. They have a way about them that does bring people in. So when they're wrong, it's critical that they say that they're wrong. And, you know, they'll incorporate whatever lessons they've learned moving forward, whatever. They're not going to lose their platform. They might lose a few of the more strident people, but I think people respect that when they say, look, I was wrong about this. You know what? I was wrong about Trump. 10 years ago, I thought he was a joke. And I thought there's no way this guy can become the president of the United States. Was I wrong.
Right.
He is the man that we have needed this last decade for our time. No doubt about it in my mind.
You and I both have had to admit that because in the second go round, I was wrong about Trump. I was all in on DeSantis, and I was like, this is not going to end well for America. I know Trump has what it takes. I'm not sure Americans have visualized that he has what it takes.
Yeah.
And I was very nervous about that. I was wrong. America overwhelmingly supported him.
Yeah.
I'm glad I was wrong.
Yeah.
And you know what? Tucker and Candace should be able to say that about this situation, too. The power that was shown for America with this operation, they should be glad they were wrong about that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I look at this, and I'm not advocating violating our Constitution. That's why you have a Constitution, right? So I don't want this to be misconstrued. Number one, I don't think we did violate our Constitution. Iran has been threatening us with words and actions for a very long time. We cannot let them get a nuclear weapon. All right. So I don't believe what Trump did was unconstitutional in any way, shape, or form. But even if it were, we've been doing unconstitutional stuff all the time. If you're going to be doing unconstitutional stuff, get a nice benefit out of it, like disarming one of the world's worst regimes that wants to annihilate Israel and America. I mean, again, I'm not saying it's okay to be unconstitutional, but if you're going to be unconstitutional, get some benefit for it.
And do it in such a spectacular gold medal manner that you actually gained cred in multiple other countries as well.
Yes.
Lots of times we make decisions and the only way it affects us is between the person that you're doing the action against and you. It doesn't really matter on the world stage. This one mattered.
Yeah. Yeah, it did matter, and it mattered a lot. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think one of the frustrations that I have is there's too many people that operate in the world that should be and not in the world that is. I mean, well, we all hope for a different, better world, but they spend all their time there. And at some point, you have to say, okay, this is the shiz that we have in front of us that we have to deal with. And it's just reality. And you gotta deal with it. You gotta handle it. And I think sometimes you have people who are like, well, this is not constitutional. This is not, that is, what's the word? It's not the proper role of government. And okay, I get that. That's your North Star. But you can't always live on the North Star. You got to point yourself to it, but then you got to deal with the actual realities of the day and produce good outcomes for life and for people.
Can I get a little spiritual for a second?
Yes.
Okay. So we have ideals and we have reals in this world. The ideal is that we come down here and we don't ever screw up. Mm-hmm. You know what? That's not real.
No, you're right.
We come down here and we screw up. So God created a system called the atonement for us to fix it all.
Yeah.
There's no different in politics. There's the ideal
mm-hmm.
and then there's the real.
Yeah.
And we're not always going to do it the right way. So we do the best we can and we fix it as we go along. I don't know why somebody like Thomas Massey can't get a hold of that concept.
Yeah, I don't either. And you know what? Not to make this a Sunday school hour here, but you have the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And the mm-hmm. Pharisees were obsessed with obeying every strict, stringent requirement that they had arbitrarily created. Like that was your pathway to heaven. And Sadducees were different. They viewed it differently. And they looked at it like, what kind of outcomes do you want? What's the spirit of the law? What are you going to... And if you can be a Pharisee where the rules are more important to you than the outcome that the rules are designed to lead you to. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a real problem. And I go back to be very not Sunday school. It's driving Michael Scott's car into the lake.
Yeah.
That's what that can lead to when your own interpretation of the rules is so stringent that you've forgotten about getting a good outcome. That's problematic. And of course, and I will say this, we simply could not let Iran get a nuclear weapon. Period.
You and many Democrats have agreed on this.
You simply cannot. Mm-hmm. They cannot be trusted. So whatever apparatus it takes to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, you use it.
Yeah, but Tucker and Candace had a GPS system and they was telling them that this wasn't an option. And they can't stray. They can't stray.
Yeah. Well, it's so weird to me, and I don't want to go through all of it again, but I did go through, I did a little research this morning about all of the military strikes that the previous 4 presidents, and I didn't do Biden. I don't know that he was a president, but the Obama, Bush, and Clinton. Multiple strikes in Yemen and Bosnia and Kosovo and Libya and Syria. There's a lot of precedent for this, and there is authorization for it. And it's frustrating to me. I'll play the Sonny Hostin stuff.
Okay.
It's a little over a minute long.
Constitutionality of Donald Trump's actions. He bypassed Congress, potentially violated the War Powers Resolution. I believe this is certainly a clear violation of international law at the very least. Democratic House Leader Hakeem Jeffries accused the president of misleading the country as to his intentions. What do you think are the possible ramifications that President Trump could face for arguably overstepping his authority?
Well, look, constitutionally, only Congress has the power to declare war. The War Powers Act would make it seem very clear you need to have congressional approval on this. But president after president after president has launched military action without the approval of Congress.
Yeah.
And Congress, under Democratic and Republican leadership, has complained the president is violating the War Powers Act. This is not new. I go back. I covered Bill Clinton and the military strikes against Kosovo back in 1999. Again.
That's why I think it's more of an international law violation.
But look, it's a Republican Congress right now. I don't think he's not getting any blowback from within his own party, with the exception of Tom Massey.
So what's the good of having it then if they all violate it?
Well, that's a great question.
We've been using the 2003 AUMF to authorize every military strike in about 25 years. So Congress can't be feckless and then be mad when they don't like the outcome.
Yeah. So that was after 9/11. Congress passed this authorization of military force against. It was supposed to be against Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Okay, but it was stretched to other things. I mean, I think the language of it was wide enough. There was enough latitude there that it could be used in other situations where maybe things were getting dangerous for our allies and for our interests. So here's the thing. Congress has given that authority to the president, but they act like, oh, no, it's just unconstitutional. And at least Jonathan Karl was intellectually honest enough to point that out, that Trump's not the only one that has used military force without congressional approval. And they didn't like him bringing that up, but he's not wrong. But he's not fully right either, because Congress has given the authority for presidents to do this.
Yes. And I think you just answered the question. We got a couple of people who texted in and says, it sounds like you guys think it was unconstitutional. No, we were just explaining various ways. We were using situations to explain how inappropriate it is to go that direction with it.
Yeah.
No, I think this was constitutional. I don't feel at all that Trump did anything wrong.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't stop them from pushing the boundaries. I read the entire transcript of the phone call, and I didn't think Trump should have been impeached by that phone call. So there we go. And I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not a constitutional expert, but I am logical. I don't think he should have been impeached by the phone call. And logically here, he absolutely didn't do anything wrong, mostly because this is written clear back in the 70s, and many, many presidents before him have done it.
Yes.
So we don't all of a sudden in 2025, because we're filled with TDS, change the rules.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, agreed. So, yeah, I think the point, and maybe it's a nuanced point or an ill-advised point to make, is that we don't believe Trump acted unconstitutionally. But even if what he did was in a constitutional gray area, we're for it because it had to be done. This is something that had to be done, and we were the only nation that had the capacity to do it.
And there had been Democrat leadership prior to this who called for it but didn't do anything about it. Trump was the one who was gutsy enough to make the move.
Yes.
Is that really the problem they have? They're not as courageous as him.
That could be.
They're not as willing.
Well, when you go back and you see that you have Joe Biden, who released something like $16 billion. So the Iranians, that money opened up for them. People said, well, that was their money in the first place. And maybe it was. It wasn't the same thing that Obama did. But Biden unfroze it. You had Barack Obama, who just sent $150 billion on pallets in the middle of the night to Iran. You go back to Jimmy Carter, his horrific handling of Iran that led to the mullahs coming back in power. The Iranian Revolution was horrific for those people. I can't even imagine how many people have died and suffered because we didn't have good, strong American leadership.
Too gutless.
Totally gutless. I think maybe that is what the opposition is. And they cloak it with this. They cloak it with the Constitution, with constitutional integrity. But in reality, Julie, maybe you're exactly right. Maybe they hate that this is yet another historic and stunning foreign policy win for Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. And they've got to somehow complain about it in some fashion. So the talking point that got sent out was, say it's unconstitutional.
Yeah.
Who would have thought Thomas Massie was on the memo list? The blast email that the Democrats send out.
I don't know. And I think part of if there's a little bit of a downside, Trump's approach, although he's gotten better, I do think his approach leaves little room for his opponents to save face. Mm-hmm. I don't care if it's a Democrat. All right. But when it's a Republican, people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and Thomas Massie, even though the right thing for them would be to say, I was wrong. I don't think their ego allows them to do that. They're under attack. They're in fight or flight. And so they have to dig in and double down. And so I think that's probably, it's just the dynamics of how things are. So, all right, it's 8:46 on News Talk 107.9. Got a break. We'll come back and continue after this on this Tuesday morning. All right, 8:52 on News Talk 1079. Town and Country Gardens has the 4-step lawn program, but they also have all the vegetables you need for your garden. And you know what? Some of you all may have had some of your vegetables freeze over the last few days. I did not.
Okay, good.
But there are some in the listening area. If they live in upper elevations or whatever, we did have a frost issue a couple of nights ago. And you need to replace those. So go on down to Town and Country Gardens. They can hook you up.
Mm-hmm. And they have so many other things. Because maybe you're that person who has it all in place. You've got the 4-step lawn program. Your garden's looking good. Well, they have so many other things there as well. You can adorn the inside of your house with beautiful, unique species of plants. They have hundreds of species of plants, 2 plant rooms in there.
Yeah.
Plus they have like decorations for your lawn. Maybe it's time you need to put down some bark. We've had a windstorm. Maybe you need to not that kind.
Oh, different kind of bark. Okay.
Town and Country Gardens, located south of Idaho Falls, across from the malt plant, right there on Yellowstone Highway.
Okay, I don't know why.
That was really, that's too soft. What
That
are you
is like-
doing?
I
Can
don't
we
know.
go
That's
back
like-
to 80s?
That's like...
No. Where's your
Okay.
80s playlist?
I don't have it on a page right now, or else I'd play it.
Oh.
Well, wait. You know what? I know what you're talking about. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. You are talking about this.
Better.
This? You like this a little better?
Better. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we'll take the break. It's 8:54 now on News Talk 1079. We'll wrap up this hour, but we have another hour ahead. All right. It's 8:58 on News Talk 1079. Julie, I have developed further an idea about how to handle construction projects that I want to throw by you in the first part of the next hour, okay?
I can't wait.
All right,
we haven't even talked about this.
Coming. All right, 9:07. Welcome back. It's hour 2. So, Julie, my idea. I think every city council within the sound of my voice and beyond should pass a resolution that construction projects in their respective municipality must have the name of the mayor in a big banner over the top of the construction project.
Brought to you by
Mayor Smith, Mayor whoever. And you know how they say, it's like marigold days. They put those banners across Main Street or whatever. That kind of a banner. Like it's a big, huge banner above where the construction project is. Brought to you by, like it could even say, this construction project, this detour, this whatever, brought to you by Mayor so-and-so.
Yeah.
And that way, so as to expedite the process.
The efficiency.
Yes.
Of the process.
I believe that should happen.
Look, at this point, if we're going to pass signs, sure, I'm all in on your idea, but how about a sign so I know what dang lane you want me to drive in?
I know what word you wanted to say right there. But I just think that it might scoot those construction projects along if they were to have the mayor's name over them.
It's a little kick in the rear end.
You know what? And then they can brag at how quickly it was accomplished.
There we go.
I think there's a flip side here. There's an
win for
upside to
them.
this.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, let's go to the phones. Caller, welcome to the show. How are you today? I'm sorry. Go ahead and start over.
Oh, I'm sorry. I like your idea there on the construction project, but I think that a life-size photo of the mayor in the construction outfit, and then next to her is a sign that says, "I'm up for re-election in."
Okay.
A reminder, a gentle reminder to everyone when you can vote for me again.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for the call. I mean, look, if they get to show up at fancy press conferences and take credit for things, I also think their name should be attached to the all of it, like to both sides of the ledger.
Yeah. I don't think this is going to pass their city councils.
Well, that's because I'm not on the city council. So
for many reasons, not just this one.
There's probably a good reason why I am not on the city council. That's probably true. Probably true. Anyway, so I just wanted to throw that idea by you.
Great idea.
We don't have to have a lengthy conversation about it. So,
Isn't there just some basic signs that they have? You know how women have a little black dress in their closet, or almost all women have a basic pair of black boots, or aren't there signs like that if you own a construction company that you just put on the road and say, merge left, merge right?
Yeah. Yeah. The problem is they don't have 17 of them for all their simultaneous projects. That's the problem.
There's not enough little black dresses?
Yeah, not nearly enough. Not that we're jaded or anything. I've thought about this. And I know it can't happen cleanly like this, but I do think maybe we could get closer to this. Rather than do 6 or 7 projects all at once, why not do 1 or 2, get those wrapped up real quick, and then go to the next 1 or 2? Because I feel like when you do 7 at once, you're going to take a long time, and a much broader area of the area is slowed down because of it. Does that make sense?
It sure does. I think they're going to say that these construction projects actually take this long. I think that's what they're going to say. They're going to say they can't do them faster.
Yeah, because you're doing 6 others at the same time. I mean, it would be like, okay, if I said, you know what? We're going to put in carpet, and we're going to paint, and we're going to redo the windows, and we're going to put in a new fence, and I'm starting them all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, you would never do that.
Right.
If you're, so I guess I am totally open, unlike Thomas Massey or Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens, I'm totally open to being wrong. If there's a good explanation as to why they do 7 simultaneous construction projects, I'm all ears. You correct me. I'm good to be corrected. But I would like a good explanation for that.
If that person's going to call in and correct us, if they know, they're on the inner circles of these things and they're going to call and correct, please explain to me why I was so frustrated during one of the construction zones that I drive frequently the other day, as the 17, 18-year-old kid was on his phone and actually not directing traffic. So give me an explanation for that one. Or for the fact that the Pancrase Bridge that's been going for 3 summers now has just 2 men building the railings, and we're shutting down full lanes for that. So, I would love to be corrected on that one, too, about the efficiency of those 2 projects.
Might I also add one more question? If you drive down through Utah, you have construction where even if it's late at night, and I see this all the time, you drive through, it might be 11 o'clock at night. Those construction workers are out there getting it done. But I can they work at night? I would much rather, especially in the summer when it's 90 degrees out, I'd much rather work overnight when it's 63 than when it's 92.
Or start at 4 a.m. and be done at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. Just questions.
Just inquiring minds.
We had a call. They hung up.
Oh, shoot.
Probably because they had to go because the construction zone opened up. So they had to.
They just keep driving.
Yeah. Okay, 208-542-1079. If you would like to join us for the program this morning, we're still talking a lot about the Iran-Israel. It sounds like the ceasefire's back on. It's a little tenuous, obviously, because we thought we were here yesterday afternoon, had the ceasefire, and then it all went to crap overnight. Mm-hmm. But we have renewed focus by President Trump to make sure Prime Minister Netanyahu is on board with this. So
yeah, I think you saw a very frustrated Trump this morning. He did drop he dropped the F-bomb on live TV. I was listening to it live, so I heard it in real time.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem that he's frustrated. I think that his frustration is deserved. I think that this was ridiculous for Israel to react this way. End that part now. End your part with the Palestinians, and let's get back to living regularly. Let's get back to peace in the Middle East.
Yeah, is that regular though to have peace in the Middle East?
For them, probably not.
Yeah,
I think during Trump's first term, that's why it was so celebrated. That wow, did we actually achieve this? Because it's really been unachievable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it has, but and maybe they won't throw a press conference about it or be overjoyed about it. But I promise you the other nations in that region are, even if quietly, thrilled that Iran's nuclear capability has been destroyed.
Yeah.
They didn't want that there.
No.
What do you make of Medvedev from Russia saying other nations are lining up to give Iran a nuclear weapon?
So did you listen to the Kayleigh McEnany clip that I gave you?
I've got it here. We could play it.
It's long, so I wouldn't recommend it because it's not towards the end that till she says this. But towards the end, she just starts firing off nation after nation after nation that supports that. So Kayleigh McEnany is in complete opposites of what Russia was putting out there. I think Russia has to put out their propaganda. I think they have to say that. I'm obviously going to trust what Kayleigh McEnany is going to say. She's been in the trenches. She's got people who are feeding her information.
Yeah. And
I mean, of course, Russia's going to put out their propaganda. They control the media.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. I also think, okay, if you had nations that were willing to just willy-nilly give Iran a nuclear weapon, why haven't they already? Why make them go through the years-long process of centrifuges and building facilities and doing it, trying to avoid surveillance? I mean, if there were nations willing to do that, that's the path Iran would have taken in the first place.
It's the easiest.
Yes, it is. So I'm not buying it. I think that Russia just feels like they're almost duty bound to take an anti-American posture, so they're just saying crap.
Yeah.
And I don't think that actually give them a nuclear weapon, because if they did and Iran actually used it, then that nation would be held accountable in some way. And it's probably a violation. If you're a nuclear country and you give a hostile nation a nuclear weapon, you're in big trouble.
Yeah. Are you nervous at all about this trip that Trump is taking to the Netherlands to be with NATO?
I'm always nervous for Trump. I don't know if I'm extra nervous about this one, but I always worry about, I mean, we saw the Butler clip over and over and over again. There are forces that want him dead. So, yeah, I worry about him.
I'm really nervous, too. I'm also super nervous because there has been we talked yesterday about the Iranians that are just wandering around within American borders. Fox did another piece on it this morning, talking about how there's plenty of sleeper cells, maybe small, but available within the borders of the United States. Well, I believe it's Sweden has a very strong Iranian population.
Yeah.
That makes me a little nervous. I mean, I, like you, always nervous.
Yeah.
When Trump is out and about. I don't know if I'm loving that he's going on this trip, and NATO is so NATO, but yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm any additionally nervous, but I guess it is. You're not wrong about that. So
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Why not? We like to run at hyperspeed and do as much as we can in a news cycle. So why not have something else happen?
Yeah.
That's how we're living right now.
Well, it is. I also think it would be fascinating. You and I have seen the Secret Service operate, and it's interesting to watch these guys and how they keep a venue secure and keep the president safe. And I think there's probably, for every precaution you see visibly, there's probably 100 precautions that are hidden that they're taking. Their track record, excluding Butler, is incredibly good.
Well, that's why Bongino was so frustrated with Butler.
Yeah.
It was everything the Secret Service isn't.
Yeah.
Everything that he had ever experienced did not happen at Butler.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And we don't hear about Butler too much.
Oh, they're so glad it's going away. They don't want to answer it.
No, they don't, but they should. I look at this. The JFK files, Julie, quite honestly, were kind of anticlimactic. We didn't really find out anything new, but they had 60 plus years to sanitize whatever they had on the JFK stuff. So I really wasn't expecting a whole lot. The other one is the Epstein files. Where are those? And why is Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi acting real weird when you bring up the Epstein files? And I feel like Butler, Pennsylvania is the same thing. We still don't know anything about that kid that shot Trump. We have lingering questions about who he was associating with. How his family hired massively expensive attorneys, but they're not wealthy. I mean, all of those things are worth exploring, but it's quiet. And I want to know why it's quiet.
Well, interestingly enough, we have a comparable event, not completely comparable, but comparable because it was a few months later and you have a man outside the golf course.
Yeah.
We know a lot about that guy.
Yeah.
How do we know so much about him and nothing about the Butler guy?
I don't know. And that's a good question. And those are the questions I have. So I don't know. I wish we did. And that's not me suggesting conspiracy. That's me genuinely curious. Why don't we have the Epstein files now? So, all right, 9:22 on News Talk 1079, Neal Larson, along with Julie Mason. You know, I think it froze somewhere around the timberline. Over
it did?
a couple of nights ago. Yeah, you get up in those upper elevations.
Well, if you want to be warm and cozy at night, you can visit Timberline Home at 711 East Anderson in Idaho Falls. That was our great segue to talk about Timberline.
Worst segue.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Can you work on that? Like pen something else over there, would you?
I know, but we sort of prepped this. Julie's like, you can toss this to me whenever because I'm ready.
All right, let's talk about the infinity massage chairs that are at Timberline Home. This is part of the comfort brands that Timberline Home has brought in to make your life more enjoyable. These are amazing. You should just stop on by, try them out. They also have the Z-Cliner and the Zofa. The Z-Cliner is a one-person recliner designed to be slept in. It's meant to be slept in. And the Zofa is a two-person sofa designed to be slept in. Their science-backed nanobionic fabric speeds up blood flow by 30%, so that decreases inflammation throughout the entire body. They also have multiple heat, massage, and zero-gravity recline options. This also helps with circulation. This same technology is in both the Z-Cliner and the Zofa. So go figure out, is this something you want to do as a couple? Maybe it's just time to switch out from your regular mattress. And according to a recent study by Sleep Score, the Zofa and the Z-Cliner can improve your sleep quality by up to 121%. So stop on by 711 East Anderson, Idaho Falls. Ask them all about these new options, the infinity massage chairs and the recliners to sleep in.
It's 9:23 on News Talk 1079. We'll be back just ahead after this break. Okay.
No, John, Pancari is still not done. I'm sure there's some other phase 8 of that project.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm reading a story. Oh, interesting. Did you hear about the orcas that they filmed using kelp? They were rubbing each other with kelp.
The orca was pushing the kelp up on another orca?
Yeah.
Is this some kind of chicken wow
like some
moment?
breeding ritual? No, I don't think so. It's sort of like grooming. Like it's called allokelping. Could be a form of grooming for skin hygiene, as well as a way to socially bond with other members of the family.
Okay, there's a bow chicken wow. This is like the husband going, "Oh, here, let me give you a massage."
Yeah, right. Yeah.
With no motive behind that at all.
Yeah. The hygiene theory, such as treating or removing dead skin, could be one explanation. Cetaceans often shed dead skin, which helps keep their bodies smooth and aerodynamic. Skin lesions, particularly gray patches, are becoming more prevalent in southern resident orcas, so allokelping might be a way to treat those lesions. The other hypothesis is that allokelping is a way to strengthen social bonds, as the whale pairs seen exhibiting this behavior were usually close relatives or similar in age. These guys are incredibly socially bonded, said Deborah Giles, an orca scientist at the Sea Doc Society, who is not involved with the research. This behavior is fascinating, but not entirely surprising. So the point they were making is that they are using tools. Like it's a rudimentary use of tools for orca whales.
Okay, good for them.
There.
They don't need no Tinder. They got kelp.
They have kelp. I saw a video, another example of this was, I think gorillas learned and passed this knowledge on to their offspring. They would take a long stick, like a very thin stick, like a very thin branch, and they would put it down the hole in an ant pile and leave it there for a few seconds. When they pulled it out, there were a whole bunch of ants on it, and then they could eat the ants. So they had figured out, again,
how to get to the ants.
It's basically a tool. So,
do you think aliens have Tinder? You know how men on their Tinder profiles catch a fish and then they take a picture holding the fish clear out front of them so it looks bigger?
Yeah.
Do you think aliens have Tinder and they hold out a human clear out front?
Maybe. Could be. We only have 2 seconds. I was wrong. I thought we were done, but we weren't quite done. 9:27 on News Talk 107.9. Neal Larson, along with Julie Mason, and you. If you'd like to reach us on the Stones Automotive Group call and text line, 208-542-1079. And so accident overnight, it looks actually yesterday evening. A pedestrian hit by a car on I-15 near Idaho Falls last night. An unidentified 26-year-old man from Manan headed north in a 2022 Volkswagen. He hit the 58-year-old from Ocean Park, Washington. Unclear why the man was walking on the highway. ISP reports an ambulance took the man to the hospital. His condition is unknown. The driver unhurt. The road was blocked for about an hour while emergency responders were on the scene. So that's
unfortunate.
A few questions there why the interstate's not a place to be walking, but
we still know nothing about the shooting on the Snake River that happened yesterday morning.
Yeah.
So details have not been released about that.
Very little about that.
And I believe the Amber Alert is still active for the 2 kids out of Jefferson County, the 13-year-old and the 15-year-old.
Okay. Yeah. I saw the mom did an interview with Local News 8.
Yes. And she's super worried that directives that have been sent from prison by Warren Jeffs are the reason that her kids have been taken.
And what are those directives?
That they need to be, well, I don't want to say I was going to say sacrificed, but I don't want to say the wrong term that Jeffs used. Let me get to the article.
He said that children need to die so they can be resurrected as pure beings. Okay, this is
that is sacrifice. I didn't want to use that term if it's not.
Okay, this is getting very Vallow-Daybell-esque.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I would be worried, too. Let's see. This is odd. Should I read this?
Sure, read it.
This letter?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, there's several of these letters. Never mind. From the mother. I had not really looked thoroughly at this. Yeah, it's too long here. But, boy, that is very concerning.
So the letters are from, people that are connected to Warren Jeffs, like his mom and a wife.
Yeah.
And that's where the directives are coming from.
Yeah. Okay. Julie.
Mm-hmm.
This is not good. Why?
I hope they're safe.
I do too. And because, when you think about this, and we can talk candidly about this, right? Mm-hmm. So when you look at this and you think about, okay, these which is just a cult, this fundamentalist group, polygamous group, when kids go missing, you hope that they're trying to escape the cult. That's your hope.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw this story and I saw the Amber Alert come out yesterday, that was sort of my initial reaction to this was they're trying to get away and out from underneath the darkness and the insular part of being FLDS. But that's not what this is.
I think the Amber Alert was the big key. Yeah, the red flag to all of that, which is they really are in danger, because I do not think they would have initiated an Amber Alert if they thought that they had been able to safely run away.
But why, again, these are questions none of us can answer because we're talking about complete irrationality here. But why would Warren Jeffs want children of his own faith to die. That's a weird thing.
Well, he's going to die in prison, so maybe it's just another flex for him to have power.
Projecting and
yeah,
doing
because
all
I
that.
don't think he wants anyone more important than him.
Okay. So it's just, I'm miserable. I'm going to make other people miserable too.
And can I get these people to do something that is horrible?
Okay.
And look how much power I have over them.
Okay, my next question is, because I don't understand jail or prison protocol, why do they even allow messages from Warren Jeffs to get out?
I don't know. I don't know what, because he's not on death row, right? He is just a regular prisoner. So he's going to have communications.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. And even if you can't write them down, I guess he could convey it to, in this case, it was his mother. Is that?
Well, one of them's his mother. I think one of them's a wife. There's more than one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we don't want another case like this.
No.
Not at all. So
no. Those two kids hopefully can be found safe.
yeah. All right. You know what? 9:33. Let's break really quick. We will come back and we'll continue after this on News Talk 1079. And again, if you'd like to reach us, 208-542-1079 is the number. Okay, so this story, I didn't want to bring this up because it is such a horrific story about the rape of the 7-year-old.
Ugh.
Is it terrible of me to want to know if this guy's here legally or not?
No, I think that's fair.
It's a fair question, right?
Yeah, totally.
It doesn't overshadow the crime he allegedly committed, but...
And I'm going to tell you, if he's guilty and he gets less time than people who've embezzled money.
Oh, I know. I mean, he was caught in the act.
I am going to lose my mind.
Yeah.
I am so over us devaluing children.
I am too.
I'm sorry somebody took money from a business.
That's a terrible thing to...
It's a horrible thing to do.
Nothing compared to destroying a child's life.
If this is another instance where a person gets a slap on the wrist, the legislature has got to take this up.
Yes.
We've got to change the sentencing structures.
Yeah.
Because that's what I hear from everybody. The judge's hands are tied. We can only give what the structures say we can give. Like, we're limited.
Okay, then
We've got
legislature
to switch it.
change the structure then. Yeah, I would agree.
Because we're on Facebook Live, I will read this. The article says the victim also complained of pain in her lower area. Of course she did. She's 7.
I know. That's horrific. You know, and I thought, didn't we pass the death penalty for pedophiles?
Yes, that did change.
I don't know why that wouldn't apply in this case.
This one should apply in this case.
Yeah. Okay, we have to talk about this. So Brian Murphy, that's the judge that stopped Trump from deporting to third-party nations. Even though the Supreme Court tossed his case, he is still saying it's in effect. Did you see this?
Okay, isn't that some sort of treason in your job?
Yeah. He cited Sotomayor's dissent to claim that his ruling still stands. They don't understand the law.
I don't understand why he gets to keep his position.
Yeah.
That's like looking at your boss and saying to your boss, I know you told me I only make $30 an hour, but I'm going to say I make $35 and I'm going to make my payroll $35.
Yeah, right. I know. You just got overruled. So I don't know why he thinks that the Trump administration already has the green light to deport who they want to deport. Including the people specific to this case.
Yeah.
So how is this is he going to drive down in his Mercedes and try to stop the deportation? Like, how is he going to try and overrule the Supreme Court of the United States? This calls for removal of judges.
That's what
like
I said.
this.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
Like you are directly going against. I know it's not treason, but it's a version of treason in your job.
It is treason. Yeah. It's an insurrection. Whatever. Yeah. Yeah. So last night, Stephen Miller was on Hannity, and he said, we will hold the judge accountable tomorrow. Expect fireworks. Are they going to arrest him?
I hope so.
I think we might see that judge get arrested.
I hope so.
Because he's in contempt of court, right? If you just openly defy a Supreme Court ruling,
Who was the criminal that he was overseeing that this case went all the way up?
Yeah.
Where's that criminal at? That's what I want to know.
That mandate keeps dangerous criminals, including 8 offenders held at Camp Lemonnier, Djibouti, from being removed.
Djibouti? Don't talk like that on the radio.
It's my show. I can say what I want. 9:38. We'll call it 9:39 now on News Talk 1079. Neal Larson along with Julie Mason. And Julie, we may see something very interesting happen today. So the Supreme Court sided with Trump and said, yeah, you can deport illegals to third-party nations. Because there was a federal judge, his name is Brian Murphy, U.S. District Judge. He declared Monday evening that his May 21st ruling, which blocks the deportation of violent illegal aliens to third-party countries, remains in full effect, even after the nation's highest court ruled against him in a decisive 6-3 vote. The Supreme Court had just cleared the way for President Trump's administration to resume the lawful deportation of illegal aliens, including several from Laos, Vietnam and Cuba and South Sudan, or to South Sudan. The justices granted an emergency application by the Trump administration pausing Murphy's radical order. Only the court's 3 most liberal justices, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, dissented. Yet Judge Murphy cited Sotomayor's dissent to claim that his ruling still stands. The court's May 21st, 2025 order on remedy remains in full force and effect, notwithstanding today's stay of the preliminary injunction. That mandate keeps dangerous criminals, including 8 offenders held at Camp Lemonnier and Djibouti, from being removed, which is Julie's favorite.
I told him not to talk like that on air.
Yeah. During a fiery segment on Hannity Monday night, Trump advisor Stephen Miller vowed accountability is coming.
Yes, this is an incredible victory, the Supreme Court win. It allows President Trump, as the law has long said, but the courts have blocked, it allows President Trump to send illegal aliens convicted of rape, murder, homicide, assault, battery, crimes against children to any country around the world that is willing to accept them. So whether that be South Sudan, or whether it be Somalia, or whether it be Ethiopia, any country in the world that is willing to accept these monsters, we can get them out of our country and be free of them forever. The only thing I have to share tonight, Sean, in a little bit of breaking news, is that the district court judge in Boston has said he's going to defy the Supreme Court's ruling. So expect fireworks tomorrow when we hold this judge accountable for refusing to obey the Supreme Court.
Okay, so fireworks today. Do they arrest this judge for being in contempt of the Supreme Court?
I don't. That's why I asked where the actual. So a court case can't go unless it's reflective of an actual case. So I asked you where those people were. Doesn't he have to defy what happens to those people before they can arrest him? What I mean by that, so you said 8 detainees.
Yeah.
If the 8 detainees are now put on a list and being sent away and the judge doesn't do anything about the 8 detainees, isn't he just talking smack? And can they arrest him for talking smack? That's my question. If he actually steps in and stops police or something from doing something with those 8 detainees, he's clearly broken the law.
I think when you look at if he signs his name to a document that is openly in violation of the Supreme Court, that may be against the law.
That may be enough.
Yeah, because I mean, when the Supreme Court rules on everybody in the judicial system, except him apparently, knows that when the Supreme Court makes a ruling, it's done. Mm-hmm. It's done. And so if he is like, no, you know what, Supreme Court, here's my middle finger, and I'm going to sign this anyway, and I'm going to say you still can't deport these criminals, then I think he might be in some kind of abuse of power.
Yeah, I think he has to do some sort of action. I think he can sit here and talk and sound stupid.
Yeah.
And they can't arrest him. But if he does some sort of action with these 8 detainees.
But what action can a judge do?
Well, that's what I mean. Like signing an order saying they cannot be removed from this jail or whatever. Or assign them to be released, or because that's how they arrested that judge who walked the person out through the side door. She had actually done an action.
Right. taken an action. Okay. Yeah, maybe. And I don't know if it was a verbal thing the judge said or if he signed a document saying that that this couldn't happen. Now, but if you're the Trump administration, you're like, I don't care what you say anymore. We have our green light from the Supreme Court.
Oh, I'd send ICE immediately and go get those 8 detainees.
Absolutely.
It would be an instant. It would happen today.
Get them out of here. Yeah, this is very problematic. I mean, you have people on the left who are whining a few weeks ago because they felt like Trump was ignoring what the federal judges were saying. Now I want to see what those very same people are going to say about a judge ignoring the Supreme Court of the United States.
Yeah. Well, they're not. They're the party of hypocrisy.
Yeah, they're not. They'll be quiet on this one.
Yeah.
This is different.
That's what they'll say.
They will say that.
Obama can bomb everybody, but when Trump does it, it's different.
Yeah, that's true. All right, 944-208-542-1079. I do want to know, though, when you have Stephen Miller, he's in the executive branch, one of Trump's top advisors, and he's saying there's going to be fireworks. What kind of fireworks can the executive branch bring to the judicial branch?
Yeah, I did a quick search. All I did was look up the Boston judge's name. I'm not seeing anything new as of this morning, so we're going to have to keep a watch on it.
Okay, well, it's a super interesting story. So, you know what else is interesting? My tomatoes.
Okay, how big? Do you have little baby ones? What's on the vine?
They're probably the size of good-sized grapes.
Okay, they're getting there.
Yeah, they're coming. I mean, I bought these little things. They were just little youngsters. Like they were like 4 or 5 inches tall.
Raise them up.
I have raised them up, and I'm so proud of them. They're doing such a good job.
They got their Eagle Scout and everything.
They're at the top of their class right now. These little tomatoes, and no, they've exploded. Like they're. Maybe this week isn't the best time to use that term, but you know what? They're doing very, very well. You water them and you feed them. You give them a few hours of sunshine every day, and they absolutely love it.
I think the best part about your tomatoes you're raising up is you didn't do it without getting the expert advice. Like you read the book, What to Expect When You're Expecting, except for tomatoes.
That's true. I did not do that.
And you got that advice from Town and Country Gardens. So that's why they look so good.
I was a deadbeat tomato dad a couple of years ago, but I have reformed and I am on my way, and my little tomato children are thriving. So
you can be a great parent of your garden as well. If you visit Town and Country Gardens, talk to them about whatever, like if you have weeds, you can take a picture of it. They'll help you determine how's the best to rid your lawn or your garden space or whatever. They also have indoor plants.
They do.
Decorations, everything you need for your yard, your lawn.
A couple of years ago, I almost had TPS show up.
Oh.
Yeah, think through that one a little. Yeah. But not this year.
Okay, good.
All right. We're going to take a break. Town and Country Gardens, south of Idaho Falls, Yellowstone Highway, across from the Budweiser plant.
That makes me want to put on some kind of uniform and come and take your plants away.
I know. All right. We'll be back after this. Oh, yeah. How many people listen that have only lived here for a couple of weeks? They're scanning. They're like, what are the radio stations like here in East Idaho? And they come across us. You're like, these are the weirdest people ever.
Probably.
What's wrong with these people?
Probably.
All right, I'm plotting with Julie here.
Oh, Nathan thinks our weirdness is endearing. I think so too, Nathan.
Yeah. Okay. This is a perfect moment for the grabber, right?
Sure.
Someone said Butler was definitely an inside job. I do think we have to watch for some rogue domestic terrorism now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think something could happen. I got my, Stephanie just reminded me of this. I got my concealed carry permit extended.
Nice.
Still have it.
Did you have to go in to do that, or did they just?
Yep.
Good.
And And flying with your Star card, they do every airport I went through is now done with just your driver's license.
Oh, nice. That's good.
The only time you pull out your actual ticket is when you're getting on the plane.
Okay.
And they scan it. And by pull out your ticket, I mean pull it up on your phone. But
I'm not happy with Iran either, but I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
All right. Little frustration spilling over for the president this morning. And he says what's on his mind.
Yes, he does.
And I feel like he then, I think it was minutes later, he got on Marine One, had a phone call with Netanyahu, and I think we are back on track.
I think so too. Yeah, I think that the varying countries are going to go, okay, we got to calm down for at least a minute. Now, that doesn't mean in 3 months something doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But I think now they know Trump means serious business.
So someone texted this, and I thought it was interesting. They said, this isn't new. The final day of World War I had the heaviest shelling of the entire war. They knew it was coming to an end.
Yeah.
So they were like, let's get it all out.
Yeah, I wonder if, they're probably right.
Yeah. And then they said, but it is stupid.
Yeah. I was thinking about the Civil War site that I visited, and that very, very bloody and deadly battle of the site that I visited in Tennessee. It was one of the last as well.
Yeah, I'm finding out.
You're going to fact check it?
Yeah. It says the final day of World War I, November 11th, 1918, was the worst for shelling. Thousands of troops died even as the clock ticked down to the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. The Eastern Front also saw thousands of casualties a day during major offensive pushes, but it was the Western Front that saw the most concentrated slaughter. The total dead, wounded, and missing on all sides on that final day was estimated to be 10,900 people on one day.
Wow.
Dang.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's an awful lot. So
maybe we should send those totals to AOC so she can understand what war actually is.
Yeah, that's
because she's a little confused.
Yeah. I think they are confused, Julie. And I think that was one of the most frustrating things for me was we are discussing this like we're 4 years into the Vietnam War or that we're 9 years into the Afghanistan War. No, it was a singular aerial mission, no boots on the ground, with one objective in mind, decimate Iran's nuclear capability. That's not a war. That's a mission, but it's not a war.
Well, I would love to know AOC's response to Abbeygate. You were fine? You were fine with losing 13 soldiers because Joe Biden miscalculated that mission so badly? You probably had nothing to say about that. But Trump drops bombs in a perfect mission, and I don't use that word very often.
Yeah.
I have examined this. I have not seen any flaws yet in this mission. He drops bombs in a perfect mission. We don't lose any lives, and that's extending past his capability. But it's fine that we killed 13 soldiers leaving Afghanistan.
Yeah. Yeah, right. No, yeah. To them it is. That's just the cost of doing business.
I guess it is when a Democrat makes a decision.
Yeah, it's true. And can you imagine, and Trump would never allow this to happen under his watch, but imagine if you did turn the tables and you had the same operation happening under Trump and we lose, was it 13?
It was 13.
13 Marines that died. We leave billions of dollars worth of equipment to a terror group. Can you imagine what the left would be doing right now? If it was Donald Trump that had been the president during Abbeygate and during the Afghanistan withdrawal, we wouldn't hear the end of it.
We wouldn't hear the end of it. Well, we're not hearing the end of a perfect mission.
Yeah, I know.
They can't even congratulate our military.
That's true. And Donald Trump, I've said this, Donald Trump has said this, he could cure cancer and they would find something to complain about with it.
Yeah, part of the clip that that Neal played that he didn't play was the precursor to Trump dropping the F-bomb. Is he's also super frustrated with CNN and MSNBC, which he calls the MSDNC. But he is super mad about them being disrespectful to our military.
Yeah.
For them not recognizing the amazing job that happened on Saturday.
So it's interesting. I go back to what Chris Christie said, that we played that clip yesterday, about the Democrats being tone deaf. Fetterman saying the same thing. We do need, if we want to be taken seriously as a party, we have to give credit where it's due. This was a highly successful mission, and we should be praising President Trump. And you had some wiser voices from the left, but not nearly enough. Not the ones that we see on TV every day. They are not the one. You need a Hakeem Jeffries. You need a Chuck Schumer to come out and say, Nancy Pelosi, and say, congratulations, Mr. President. We're opposing you on most things, but this was the right call, and we're thankful for this outcome.
Look, it was super easy for CNN. This was not a hard one.
Yeah.
You don't even have to mention Trump's name. You can give all the credit to the military. You don't have to mention Secretary Rubio. You don't have to mention Pete Hegseth. You could have given all the credit to the military and not been so ugly-hearted.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
There was an out here.
Yeah. There really was. And so my question is, as we have 1 minute left, is it really them that is devoid of appreciation and recognizing success? Or is it they just know their base would not tolerate them saying a nice word about Donald Trump and about a foreign policy success?
I don't know. Maybe it's a mixture.
I would hope they're a little more decent than they're looking like they are right now.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
And they're just beholden to their base.
You could say that, but I don't think somebody like Joy Reid is a decent person.
Yeah.
I don't think somebody like Sonny Hostin is a decent person.
I don't think they are. I think you're right. It's just reflexive. It's just an automated Trump's wrong, Trump's terrible point. All right, that's going to do it for the show today. Thank you for joining us. Julie and I back tomorrow. Senator Crapo will be joining us. I'm sure he'll have plenty to say about the events of this week, so be sure and join us for that. Clay and Buck are up next on News Talk 107.9.